So I'll count it off.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3.
Just let's go.
1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey folks, welcome back to the rehearsal room. Nick here.
Aaron's here.
We're actually going to do something a little different again this time around. One of our listeners, Ty Sullivan, sent in an email with a request for a movie for us to kind of review and go over. So he did request Heretic by A24's Studios.
Yes, sir.
Aaron, you want to give a little background on this movie?
So, let's see. Heretic came out, I believe, last year, right? Hugh Grant, probably the biggest star in it.
Yeah.
Topher Grace
Topher
makes
Grace,
a quick little appearance. The two girls I looked up didn't do anything that I had necessarily known.
Sophie Thatcher is one of
Okay.
them. Yeah.
And the other one, I wasn't stuff I was familiar with. So this is, for me, this is the first time seeing both of them.
Okay.
Excuse me. Obviously, coming from A24, I think is something that you and I are both fans of.
Sure.
In general, they are one of those kind of like a record label where you go, anything they put out, I'll at least check out.
Yep.
A24 is definitely one of those ones. I've mentioned it probably ad nauseum on this thing. Every Saturday, I like to watch the Rotten Tomatoes, trailers, and this was coming up, and the moment I saw it, I thought, oh yeah, I'd like to check this out. Plus, seeing Hugh Grant as a bad guy seems very interesting.
Yeah.
It's a guy that broke his teeth on doing nothing but romantic comedies for a long time.
Yeah.
So to see him in something small and something where he's kind of, if you will, the bad guy. And by the way, spoiler alerts when it comes to this, just so people know,
Big time spoiler.
Big time spoiler alerts. We are not hiding anything. We are going to talk about the movie. So I just want to make sure before I say much more. Yeah, he's definitely the bad guy in this. But just the setup of it seemed really interesting. Essentially, two girls. You find out, I believe, Mormon, right?
Mormon, yeah.
They essentially go to witness at his house, and he pretty much traps them in the house and starts to essentially try to put doubt in their minds about their religious beliefs and so forth. And that's kind of up my alley in general. I like religious debate in general. So let's see in the preview. I definitely was up for it. Came on HBO, so I knew I was definitely going to see it. So the email could not have had better timing, actually.
For sure. Yeah. This was the first time I think it was mentioned to me. It was referred to as a theological thriller.
Oh, interesting.
Which, I think I mentioned this once before. I studied theology in school, so also up my alley, as it were.
Theological thriller, by the way, was Michael Jackson's Words That Far. I really hated that one.
That's the original name of that album.
Nail it.
Yeah. So, should we kind of do a breakdown of the storyline?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So as Aaron mentioned, it's these two young girls kind of going to I forget his name. Actually, his name is Mr. Reed.
That's right? Yes, because they make
They make kind of a weird connection to
Yes.
like the mystery.
Yes.
Or
Oh, yes. Mystery. And then he does say something about reading. And she's like, oh, that's your name, Mr. Reed.
Yeah. So, I don't know if that was purposefully done, playing on his name like that, but that's kind of how I took it.
I think so. This movie feels like most of what it's doing is if there's very little accident.
Right, yeah. So to that, they go to his house, and the conversation with the girls starts off supposedly very innocent-like. They're talking about some kind of adult situations, right? Firstly, about condom size.
Yes.
And then watching adult movies.
Yes.
Which, to me, that didn't seem super realistic, only because being around people of like the Mormon faith, that doesn't seem like conversations they would have, even though the one girl is younger and maybe she is a little bit more curious about life outside of the faith,
Yeah, it was almost like, as you said, one girl definitely seems younger. They both probably, I'm not totally astute in the Mormon religion. Apparently, both of these girls grew up in real life. Both grew up Mormon.
They were
so
both
they had
Mormon. They both separated from
I
the
thought
church.
that was very interesting.
Yeah.
So I think you go out at 18 and you're kind of tasked to go out and do this,
And
right?
do the witnessing,
Do the witnessing. So you figure the dark-haired girl seems to be older than the other one for
Yeah,
sure.
so
There's a
she's
sense of naivete of the other one,
Yes,
a little more worldly where the other girl is. So yes, their talk of adult films feels like somebody almost like she wants to seem older to the older girl to talk about adult films in some ways.
Yeah. So kind of like more experienced.
Yeah, like, oh, I did this thing that I were technically not allowed to, but then changes it
Right.
into, but it's okay because I saw God through it, and it made it okay that I did
Exactly.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which also shows, and I'm going to be upfront. I think because what my studies have kind of granted me is a little bit of insight into these faiths.
Right.
So it might sound like I'm being critical sometimes, which I will be.
Yeah.
I'm not a religious person at
Same.
all, but at times it'll also sound like I'm defending it because I want to make sure that the representation of the faith is maybe a bit more accurate to what is actually the faith and not just somebody's opinion of religion.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. I mean, this movie, interestingly, talks of that to some degree, is to say, to be critical, then you have to understand it.
Yes. Yeah.
You need to be factual in what you're criticizing.
Exactly. Yeah. So, when they actually mentioned that the older girl, I don't know if she's necessarily older, but more experienced.
Yes.
She has had converts, right?
Yes.
I think she mentions like up to 8 or something.
Yes. Where the other girl's jealous, she definitely wants to achieve the convert that
Yeah, she wants to reach that level.
Yes.
And then at one point when they're walking through town, which is in Utah, I forget if it's Ogden or it's not Salt Lake City, but I think it's Ogden.
I thought it was Colorado.
No, it's Utah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They come across a group of teenage girls.
Okay.
kind
Oh,
of
yes.
taking
Yeah.
pictures.
Yeah.
And then one of them wants a picture with the two girls who are the main characters, and she gets one of the younger girl gets pantsed.
Yeah.
Which
Looking for her magic underwear.
for her magic underwear, which that part seemed a little egregious to me because one, that wouldn't happen.
I don't. Yeah.
Right.
No.
And I get it that sometimes like the magic underwear thing is for people outside of the faith is one of the sillier aspects of Mormonism. But it is called the temple garment, and I
Right.
think it's known in Utah. So if these girls who weren't of the faith wanted to see if that was a true thing or not, they could just ask. They don't. I don't think the crassness.
It seemed like
of
something
that.
out of an '80s movie where they pick. It's like the movie. Like if that scene hadn't been in the movie, it doesn't affect it one way or the other.
Yes.
It wasn't
exactly,
necessary to do. We didn't need to see these girls are somewhat. We already get the sense as they're walking through and trying to talk to people who just keep walking by.
Right.
That This
right.
is tough. This is not easy. You
Yeah.
gotta deal with people who don't want any fucking thing to do with
Mm-hmm.
you. Which that alone sets up why they're so excited that this guy is more than willing to talk to them.
Right,
You
right.
didn't necessarily need that. I'm with you. I thought it felt a tired trope in an otherwise
go, yeah.
very cerebral movie that didn't need tired tropes like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, this movie has a lot of tired tropes. But before we get to that, the girls in question, they reach Mr. Reed's house. And by that time, there's a storm a-brewing, right? He invites them in, but they do kind of state that there needs to be a woman in, or as they mention it, his female, female roommate,
Yeah.
which was another weird phrasing.
Yes.
So famously, I think Mormons specifically, because they do the witnessing at homes sometimes, it's not necessarily a far out thing to have a person of the opposite sex present. And that's just more for the protection of both parties.
Especially being young ladies going into a male,
Right.
older male's house.
Right.
Yes.
That, because if it was the other way around, they would definitely be asked if there was a male counterpart.
yes,
Right.
yes.
So it's not something that's far out there. And it wasn't, I think that again was something that the director might have thrown in as like, look at how weird this religion is. That at least that's how I feel.
Oh, no.
Right.
I've actually, my home, one time we had some not Mormons, who are the other ones? Jehovah's Witnesses came to the house. They were 2 young ladies. I began talking with them and discussing. They were younger, and eventually the older people kind of like, where were the young ladies? They were, they've already been dissed at 3 or 4 houses. They came back to find them, and it was like, oh, and they were like, you know what? We're going to leave you some stuff, and actually the next week I was out doing some errands. My wife said the older gentleman had come back the next Sunday to say, oh, your husband seemed to have a lot of questions, and ones that I don't think the ladies could have had, but I'd be happy to, and there was a sense of like, yeah, maybe if it was my wife and 2 ladies, maybe this would have been a different thing, know.
Right.
And again, religion, beyond religion, even just safety concerns as 2 young ladies, for sure.
That's primarily what that is.
That's what I would
for
assume.
Safety
Yes,
concerns.
absolutely.
So the fact that they played it out like, oh, it's something in our religion that's preventing us from going in there just with a strange guy. The way they set it up was kind of a little weird because the phrasing of like, do you have a female roommate?
Yes.
That was weird. So they get invited into the house because Mr. Reed, Hugh Grant, fucking charming ass motherfucker in this movie. Good to see him back in something. Especially a villainous role, as it were. They get invited into the house, and then this is where I think the tropes kind of begin. He starts kind of asking them questions right off the bat, kind of having them question their own faith, right? How did you take this whole section here, where they're in like the living room?
I mean, in the moment, it's hard to kind of detach myself from what the overall movie was trying to achieve.
Yeah.
But in the moment, again, I because you get a sense of where this is going to go because I had seen the preview.
Yeah.
I understood what he was trying to do. I think what was interesting is it fit into the larger narrative. So he's questioning them, but he's also what he's really trying to do is read them. He's trying to understand who they are, and he thinks he is. He thinks he's reading them both, and he's sizing them up, ultimately, and also trying to show that he's the smartest guy in the room, and so things like the with great responsibility, with great power comes great responsibility, and they're like, oh, Spider-Man, and he's like Voltaire,
Yes.
Things like that, tricking them into thinking there is a woman in the house, whether his wife or otherwise, and so forth. Again, he mentions it a little later on, is the idea, something that's actually touched on in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, when he tells him, he's like, you knew you didn't want to come inside, but because I was nice and you didn't want to be rude, you did it anyway.
Yeah.
Why the hell do we do that as human beings? I love little things
It's like the
that.
obligation of kindness and reciprocity and stuff like that. Yeah.
Whether these girls, through their religion or whether their own safety, they wanted to make sure there was a female there, and yet you could see they kind of were uneasy and still did it anyway. So it's not to offend.
I think more the younger one.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Because
for sure. At one point, with all the questioning, the older girl, she starts kind of not fighting back, but arguing back.
Well,
right?
and you get the sense that, again, she talks about the fact she is a later convert. Her father died. Her mother joined back into the church. This younger girl has always been in the church. It's all she knows. So, and it's not an accident that one is dark hair, dark clothing. The other one is lighter hair, lighter clothing. Yeah. That's not an accident. They want you to see the dichotomy between these two. One is a little older, or at least more worldly than what you originally get the sense of the other girl.
Yeah.
She's a little more trusting, a little more naive. The other one is already starting to sense something doesn't feel right with this guy the moment we sit down.
Yeah, so
and then he becomes even more uneasy because, like you said, he starts to question them, starts to ask them questions that they don't have immediate answers to. It's obvious he is not looking to be witness to, but rather, now that you're here, I have questions for you.
Right, and it does seem like he's trying to, just the way the questions were presented, in my opinion, they seemed like this guy just watched a YouTube of all the gotcha moments in Mormonism, and tried using these to argue with these girls of the faith. Because they are very basic questions, stuff that somebody who is a believer will have way more in-depth responses to. And maybe they did it on purpose with the younger girl and the naivete that she supposedly was displaying.
Right.
Because when he tried using the whole these are different iterations of the next using the music and everything.
Right.
The older girl does say, yeah, but you're disregarding the fact that there was a Holocaust.
Yes.
And that the Jews have been kind of victimized throughout history, which is true.
Yeah,
right?
oh,
And he
absolutely.
doesn't have a comeback for that. Like, he kind of sizes her up even more so after the fact. Right?
Well, see, and I guess, and again, this is maybe where why I don't necessarily, I see what you're saying, but I don't have a problem with it because I don't think proving their religion wrong, in my opinion, was ever what he was trying to do.
No, but before I know I'm interrupting,
please.
but because he's presenting it in that way,
Yeah.
he's already being also kind of framed as a mental kind of person, right? Somebody who's well read,
Sure.
blah blah blah. So
Because that's what he tells them. He tells them
That's what he
ultimately,
tells
it's like,
them, yes.
look, I once was on a quest for who God is. So
Right.
I have studied and studied for years and years and years,
Right.
put
And he
everything
also
else
has-
aside just to try to learn who the one true God and religion truly is.
right, he also has like his own copy of the Book of
Of
Mormon.
the Book of Mormon, which has got little notepads in. There's little sticky notes, so it's
Yeah.
clear he studied it and so on and so forth.
So
yes.
I know maybe that's just because of the presentation,
Mm-hmm.
but also all the stuff he's saying is very kind of like philosophy 101,
Yeah.
which is like, for real, dude, like if you're gonna argue faith versus belief, that's a very long evolved
Sure.
debate, right? And it's not one that either side's gonna win, right?
Yeah, no.
But again, to back to the movie,
Mm-hmm.
he starts disappearing into the back of the room because again they think that there's a woman in the house,
Right. Baking a blueberry pie.
a blueberry pie, right? So one of the instances where he's in the back room, they're looking around and they notice the candle on the table, which they then turn around. They realize it's a blueberry candle,
And it's why they've been smelling it.
and it's exactly right. So they start looking for him, asking if they can speak to the lady of the house. And I forget if this is where they go into the back room.
I think so at that point. And again, the blueberry, and again, in some ways, everything he's doing is to set up, because the blueberry candle is to make them say, well, you believed
Yes.
that someone was cooking one
Right.
when all I did was light a candle.
Yeah.
There's a logical answer to why you're smelling blueberries, and it ain't because of what I told you.
Right.
But you believed me because I told you,
Yeah.
because you trusted me. And this is all leading to, yes, he then takes them, he goes down a hall that he's like, come on. And they look down that hall, and it is completely dark, and there's almost like a shadow of like a head. So
That's
they're
right.
freaking the fuck
Yes,
out,
yes,
like,
yes.
where are we about to go? Now, at this point, you're already kind of like, all right, is this Buffalo Bill? Is he about to put lotion on the skin? What the hell's going on here? And it's it's really kind of cool because, again, I think this is some of what they're trying to do, subverting expectations in some way, because they go walking down this dark hall and then go in, and it's essentially like a classroom. He's actually got pews.
Yeah,
and there's a
yes.
desk, and there's books everywhere. They're all religious books.
Yep.
They're all this thing. Then he begins to tell them about, which I think is interesting, even if you don't like the movie or whatever, just that how many people do know this, that I only recently found this out probably 3 years ago, the Monopoly thing, right? Like, I thought that was
landlord
really,
and
yeah,
Monopoly.
that
Yeah.
originally Monopoly is actually this taking down of the horrible banks and on and on and on
Yeah.
about, showing what they do to us, and then gets usurped by a man who takes it away from a woman who actually invented it. He takes it for his own, and now he's using this to show iteration.
Yes.
That there's an original, then it gets watered down. So he goes from what religion was,
Right.
to Monopoly, to the Bob Ross Monopoly,
Yeah.
where you paint pretty clouds, and he keeps showing this at the same time he is playing the Hollies song.
Yes.
That he then tells you that Radiohead's
Radiohead.
Creep essentially uses the same melody, and the Hollies sue Radiohead and win. Then Lana Del Rey has a song, which he tells them, now you'll understand this because of your age, that Lana Del Rey, you're more familiar with that, right? And this is all his way of saying, so there's Judaism, then there's Christianity, and then there is Islam.
Yeah.
And these are iterations. that discussion, I think, is interesting in general. Again, yes, he does leave out a lot of stuff, like most people in these discussions. That, to me, what I took from that was, again, I think he is sizing them up for what he wants in finality.
Agreed. I do agree with you that he is sizing them up. Yeah. I just think because this movie is entirely based on exposition.
I hear you.
Right?
Yeah.
It's you're not moving. You're not. It's not an action movie.
No.
And it's not a horror movie either.
It's the thriller more than
right.
Yeah, it's very intense. I did see some people who did say some Silence of the Lambs vibes at times.
I can definitely
a little bit.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I also think back to the trope thing. The way you mentioned the thing about the Monopoly game and Landlord, the original version, these came up in internet memes.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why this movie, all the topics that he was bringing up about the iterations, he's not wrong.
Yeah,
right?
No.
I just think the way it was presented was like, this is a walking, talking internet meme telling these girls,
for sure,
hey, this isn't the original version. This is just another version, which again, not wrong.
Right. No, I get you.
The discussion is a lot more detailed.
Yes, if it allows for, it can become much more detailed.
Yeah. So I get it. Like they need to get point A to point B in a movie, right? That's whatever, however minutes long it is. I just think if you're gonna do a breakdown of a faith, any faith,
sure.
Then let's get down to the brass tacks, right?
I mean, I would love to see a real debate on this sort of thing. As I say, I am with you 100%. I just think to serve what they're trying to do in the movie, I think that's part of what you learn too. Without we will get there. He's a fraud. He's been a fraud the entire time.
The whole time.
And I think that is when you go back and you realize, like, even your arguments are fairly simple. If you got somebody that was number one, not scared, not thinking they were about to be murdered, and we were sitting down and literally debating over a cup of coffee, could probably combat a lot of what you're saying, or at least, again, using their belief, which can be stronger than fact sometimes, and have a discussion with you. But in the end, we find out even he's just full of shit.
He's full of shit, yes.
And I think that those are satisfying in some ways. It's like the guy who thinks he's the smartest guy in the room and subverts it. You think this is what he's trying to do, that hey, in the end, I'm just trying to teach you a lesson. It's like, no, you're just a sociopath.
Exactly. So before we get into the room, I remember this is when they tried making a call, they faked making the call, right?
Right.
And he knows that she's full of shit because he did tell her in the very beginning when they walked into the house, hey, there's steel or like metal in the walls and doors. Right. He tells them as such, and they keep asking for a way out. He lets them know that there's one way out through one of two doors in the kind of classroom, pulpit room that they're in.
Yes.
He marks one room belief, and then the other one I think is disbelief.
I believe yes. And the only way out is through.
The only way out is through, and I think they take a look through one of the doors, and it's all dark and spooky.
Oh, real quick.
Yeah.
Because I did read it was ad-libbed, and it is very funny. When he does the Monopoly, I won't tell you which part I like to pick. Meow. When he talks about which figure he uses every time.
Oh, yes.
I won't tell you which one I choose. Meow. I thought that was great. They said it was totally ad-libbed. I thought that was... I just didn't... Sometimes we talked about this Nosferatu. There's never a point of levity.
Right.
Sometimes in these movies, it is fun to have that little point of levity.
And there was more than one in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because... We'll get
that's
to this
that's the one that stood out the most to me.
The part that stood out to me is when he's actually singing "Creep."
Oh yes,
right?
Oh God, yes, yeah.
So the girls kind of they have a moment where they have to decide whether they're going to go down the belief door or the disbelief door, and
do they go together or do they go separately?
Exactly. So I think it was the younger girl who told the other one, or was it the other?
No, I think it's the older one. She eventually is like, look. Strength in numbers, essentially, like we need to stay together.
Right.
And we're going to go down the belief door.
The belief door, right. So then they go down, and then now they're in a basement, right? And then there's like a little table. There's a sunlight.
Yes.
Not sunlight.
Well, no. It would be considered like a sunlight. But again, the storm is coming. You see snow and
wind.
Yeah.
So it's like a little window on the top.
Window on the top that would normally let in sunlight to where they are.
And the way it was described to me, which I don't know if this is a dead giveaway or not, but
Mm-hmm.
you do notice the board with the nails on it.
Well, yeah, because they break the table, right? They're trying to figure out a way to get the fuck out of there.
Right,
Trying to figure out a way to escape.
Because they see there's no escape. There's a
Right.
door, but with like no handle or
Right.
something, right?
Right. And they end up breaking the table to try to do something. And yes, she finds the leg with
The three
no,
nails.
yeah, no. Again, message. It's got 3 nails. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's very much like in case if it didn't have a neon sign with an arrow pointing at it, it would only be that much more of an obvious thing. But yes, it breaks off. She puts it up against one of the pillars, and it just feels like one of those things where you're like, well, okay, literally, I turned to the family. I said, I think we all know where that's going to go at some point, right?
Yeah.
So yes, continue. Sorry. Yes.
So then they get trapped down there. There's no way out. And he's able to speak to them through like a little communication system he's built into the whole complex thing that he has now.
Almost like an old phonograph he speaks into, and it goes through a tube. Yeah.
Yeah. So he lets them know that they're going to now bear witness to a actual. What did he call her? Like a.
I mean,
a
ultimately,
prophet. It was a prophet of God.
There
right?
it is, a prophet of God, a miracle that a
A
prophet
miracle,
of God
yes,
was
and
going
that
to.
they're
yes.
going to be the witnesses,
The
and that they're
witnesses.
so lucky to witness this. And then you have this shrouded woman enter the room, and she's kind of hobbling into the room, all I don't know, misshapen is the right word, but just
Almost like she's like doing weird yoga. And
Yeah,
like
right.
a contortionist. Almost.
yes, and she's carrying a blueberry pie.
Yes.
Which somehow this is fucking pies, right? I would love a blueberry pie at the moment, by the way. So
I had a past. I'm an apple guy.
so she puts the pie on the aforementioned table in the basement, and Mr. Reed, Hugh Grant, is telling the girls, there are two types of nightshades in
Yes.
this pie. I don't remember which ones, but there are 2 deadly nightshades in this pie, and that this lady's gonna eat the pie and then die and then come back.
Right.
Which the lady eats the pie, starts gurgling, then she dies. Right. He makes the girls check her pulse and confirm that she's dead. Girls freak out, and as they're freaking out, there is a ring at the door.
Right.
And then we have the hero of the day, Topher Grace.
Right.
Which I hope he got paid like millions upon millions of dollars for this 45-second cameo.
It was to their credit. This is a part that could have been played by anyone. It wouldn't have mattered.
Anybody.
So the idea was like, hey, Topher Grace, the one redeeming quality of the 70s show.
Exactly, right?
The non-rapist.
The one good guy. Yeah. next to the dad, who was the bad guy in RoboCop, right?
I know, ironically.
But also, like, they had already been peppering shots of him kind of like noticing that the girls were taking a long time.
That hadn't checked in. There was the paper he checked. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so
that's
like
right.
he kept visiting their other stops because
Right.
it's all documented, which
Right.
very clever to include because that is how it's done.
Yes.
Right? Like it's all documented. Everyone keeps track of each other there.
Also, another thing, as you mentioned, the ringing of the doorbell, very much a nod to Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of
also.
the Lambs. Totally, yes.
It's very clear that was a little wink, wink.
Yeah. So, Mr. Reed goes to answer the door. He sees Topher Grace there. We also at least in my taking in of the movie, this is also where it's shown that the bicycles that the girls came in with are no longer at the front of the house.
Right. One of the things, to go back a little bit, when he is disappearing back and forth as he's, the pie, let me go check on my wife, see if she'll join us, on and on and on. He's back and forth, leaving them in the house alone. When they get there, they lock their bikes. One of those
Right.
bike
Sorry,
locks where it's like I don't know how to describe it, like a U, but there's a lock and a key. It's not a combination.
the U-locks.
It's a
Yeah,
key.
yeah.
One of those U-locks that they lock their bikes to the fence.
Yep.
They purposely show when Topher Grace gets there, the bikes are no longer on the
there.
fence.
Right.
Because the girls are convinced if somebody comes, they will see their bikes, they know they're here. That will be their rescue.
Right.
But go ahead.
Right.
So go ahead, please.
So, I know I forgot another big detail about when the girls get their coats. The key is no longer in the original pocket where it was. It was originally in the older girl's pocket.
Right.
And then all of a sudden now it's in the younger girl's pocket.
Yes.
Which, kind of gives away the fact that somebody who's been in their pockets, obviously.
Right.
And this key's been moved around, and we then later find out that it's because he went and took the bike lock off took the bikes off the fence, and most likely put the key in the wrong pocket.
Yes.
Right?
Wasn't sure who to give it to. Although,
Yeah.
did he?
That's another. Yeah,
Right.
there we go. All right, that's
Little
and
things in this movie that I think redeem it away from some of the these tropes that kind of they do little subtle things like that kind of bring me back. When I lose me, they bring me back.
You
But
know,
yeah,
I know I'm sounding like a hater, and I didn't
no.
hate everything.
I
about
know
this movie.
exactly.
Yeah.
I get it.
And I know we're kind of going back and forth with the details.
No,
but,
no,
you know, that's just how the recollection works these days.
It's our iteration.
Yeah, right. This is my version of Heretic. So
then Alien lands. Go ahead. No, wait.
So-
What movie?
They're banging at the door that they came in through to go into the basement because they're locked down there.
Right.
He's at the door. He's at the front door with Topher Grace, who's the hero of the day.
Yes.
And who gets told that they're not there and accepts it and then leaves.
Yeah.
But then only comes back to deliver a pamphlet in case Mr. Reed is actually interested.
Yeah, another one of those things where you think, oh, he's figured it out. He's going to turn around and save the day. And they
Yeah.
go, one more thing. And they even do like a long pause.
Yeah.
And you think, and he goes, did you get a pamphlet?
Yep,
And you
yep.
go, son of a bitch.
Totally, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So as Mr. Reed is away, the girls see that there's also matches on the carpet. And they see this because they are peeking under the door.
Yes.
And they start literally pulling the rug closer to them, right? So it's like I don't know if this is purposeful or maybe this is just me picking this up, but it also starts the planning of the girls kind of pulling the rug out from under Mr. Reed.
There may be, I think there could be a subtle, although I remember my daughter going like, I don't understand why they're taking their sweet ass time. Who gives a shit? Yank that rug as fast as you fucking can and get the goddamn matches. Like, if he figures it out, he figures it out. You're already trapped in a goddamn basement. You know what I mean? You know, which I always think is also the sign of a good movie. If you feel like you're part of it, you're like, run, get out of there.
Yes, totally,
Why don't you just do that? You know.
And I know ultimately it's to build tension.
Of course,
right?
absolutely.
But sometimes it's just like, motherfucker, just get the fucking candle. Get the thing, you know?
Oh, another thing. Because I think she's already given her a weapon, right? And told her.
So while they were in that pulpit room,
right,
one of the girls finds a letter opener.
Yes,
that's shaped like a little knife.
Right.
And she tells her, you know, anything happens, you're going to stab him. And the magic word is going to be magic underwear.
Right. That's right. Yes.
Again,
yes. And this is the older girl telling the younger
older girl
girl.
telling the
she
younger
tells her,
girl.
you're going to have to do this because he is suspect of me.
To me, yes.
He is very suspecting of me.
Yes.
He keeps looking at me differently. There's a scene, I hate to go backwards, but because I do think it's important.
Yeah.
He blows out a candle.
Yes. Yeah.
And gives the girls very strange looks as though he identified something.
Right.
Whether he does or not, I don't know. Again, this movie does a good job of doing some things where you're just like, I'm going to let you interpret that.
Well, let's put a bookmark in that place right there.
Yes.
When they get the matches from under the rug, and they go back to their stations by the table, the younger girl notices that the lady who's dead at the table, her head position was off. Right?
That originally she was face down. Now it's side of head.
Now it's side of head. Yes.
So face down as though choking not only from the pie's poison, but you would be, if your face was still in it, you'd be choking on the pie.
Right.
Now the face is turned to the right, facing the wall.
Yes.
And she notices this.
So, you know, I think the doubt starts kind of creeping into the younger, or maybe both of them even.
Maybe.
All right. Where they're like, well, maybe this guy is telling the truth about this ancient being or force that he's discovered. Right. So I forget whether they go back to the door at this point, because I know there's a part where they are distracted away from the table.
That is when they go up the stairs to get the matches. That's when they're distracted from the table.
But after, because they start lighting the matches.
When they come back down. They come back down from the stairs to start lighting the matches because they're going to light in that tube to light something on fire, because she thinks if we start a fire, the smoke, he'll have to let us out.
Right.
Otherwise we're all going to die in here.
And so then they start lighting the matches, and then
the three little, I think they call that the three little pigs plan.
And I guess at one point this is where the lady on the table kind of pops up behind them.
Exactly.
Right. And she starts giving her prophecy. Right. What she saw while in death. Right. Ending her prophecy with, it's not real.
Right. Which, I'll be honest, when I was watching it, those are the only words I actually made out.
Agreed. Man, okay, I'm glad you said this because...
I was like, oh, maybe her prophecy's in some like jibber jabber language I
Yes,
don't
yes,
understand.
yes. Yeah.
And then I heard, it's not real. And I was like, okay, I caught that. And so when he comes into the room, he's like, okay, ladies, you just witnessed a miracle. Tell me all about it.
Yeah.
What did she say? And I was like, how the fuck are these girls going to tell him what she said? She didn't say anything.
Right.
And they're like, well, she described a bright light. And she did?
Yeah,
Oh,
dude. Okay, I'm glad. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
glad this is all coming out. So the prophecy, while it's being told to the girls, I had to rewind that like twice and keep upping the volume.
Yeah. Oh,
Because I know I'm blind, but I don't think I'm deaf yet.
no,
right?
I'm definitely, well, I'm a little deaf, but yes, not to the. I still understand English.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got the rest of the movie. This
Yeah.
was the only part I didn't understand. And like I said, a part of me did go, well, maybe the prophecies in it. Like she was. I don't know why I put that again. I put this on there, like I'm almost like a Mother Teresa look kind of thing.
Okay,
But remember
yeah.
too, also there's a part where she's like contorting her body in this weird prayer thing.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I don't know. And again, at this point, we don't really know what's going to happen. So I'm like, maybe she's she's foreign, so she's speaking like a weird language, and plus she's back from the dead supposedly.
Yeah,
So yes,
yeah.
but please,
Yeah. So they relay the whole thing, and he comes in to question them, and this is where the lady walks away, right?
yes, she goes back upstairs.
She goes back up
and he unlocks her little door and lets her back into her room that she had originally come out of with the blueberry pie.
And this is also where the older girl tells him that wasn't a prophet, because I've seen the same thing. This is after being questioned about the favorite kind of junk food that they've had.
Right.
They start going through a bunch of burger places, and he asks, why not Taco Bell?
Right. Oh, yes.
Remember this? Right?
Yes.
So then she says, well, the reason we didn't talk about Taco Bell was because I had food poisoning there.
Yes.
And I was dead for, I think, 4 minutes.
Yes.
And basically the prophecy that this lady kind of relayed is the same thing everybody sees, because when the mind starts disconnecting from the rest of the body, this is what everybody sees.
Right.
Right. The
I
light
see
at
a
the end
bright
of the
light.
tunnel.
I
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
Yes. Right.
And I guess this is where also I don't know if he's already close to them, like physically, but and you correct me if I'm wrong, this is where
Please.
she says the magic words, the magic underwear.
I think she's about to, right? You get the sense she's going to say.
I thought she said it, and before the other girl could act, he slices her neck.
Yes,
Right?
you were absolutely correct. Yes, he slits her throat. She's about to say it, and he slits her throat.
Yeah, so-
which is, as an audience member, you because
Right,
you
yes.
didn't see it coming. You clearly heard her telegraphing, "I'm about to get to
Yes.
magic underwear,"
Yep.
and you think because then that means she'll stab the guy, and he slits her throat, and like you realize like, oh, he slit her throat.
Yeah,
Slit her throat.
yeah.
You know,
Like, she's
Yes.
actually
Yes.
dying. This
Yes.
isn't blueberry pie
No,
shit,
no,
right? At least not yet.
Not yet.
Right?
Right.
Because he does start telling the younger girl, don't worry, she's gonna come back.
Right.
Right. Then he tells her to kind of be patient. He starts going off on little tangents, and when the older girl doesn't come back, he starts digging around in her arm.
Yeah, like lifts her arm and cuts it on the. I guess you would say what on the back of your arm.
The back of your arm.
Right,
like,
the back, like
above the elbow. Kinda?
above the elbow. Yes.
Right.
Which go ahead, please.
So here's another detail, and again, going back and forth
Yes,
into the movie.
yes, yes.
Previously, when Aaron mentioned that he had blown out the candle and was looking at the girl the weird way, it's because she had scratched a scar.
Yes.
A surgery scar
In that part of the arm.
in that part of the arm. So the only reason she'd have a scar in that place is because she had an IUD, right?
Right, yeah.
And I was gonna say IED again.
She may have an explosive device. We didn't get into that. I'm not going to discount that.
Yeah, right. So
Maybe it's a different iteration of an IUD.
and this might be a different version of the movie as well.
She's a secret terrorist.
Yeah, right. So then he starts telling the younger girl she's not coming back because she's basically like an NPC, like a I don't want to say robot, but she's not real.
Yeah, that's where. By the way, at this point in the movie, I'm like, wait, what the fuck is going on here? What do you
Yes,
mean? Like, does
same.
he believe she's a robot? Like,
Yeah.
What? And then of course my daughter, my wife, are like, no, it's an IUD here. And I go, no, I know what an IUD is. I'm just like, because the candle thing.
Right,
When he looked
right.
at them weirdly, I thought, so does he Because, by the way, if you told me he was crazy, I'm like, well, fuck yeah, he's crazy. So
Right.
maybe he really does believe she's a robot.
Yes,
you know what I
yes.
mean? So, yes, continue.
Yeah,
please.
so he starts telling her about the what's the theory? The
Was it the butterfly one?
no.
No.
Well, I'll come back to that one though.
Yeah.
The simulation theory.
Oh, yes,
Right?
yes.
He's like, oh, there's a simulation theory and blah blah blah. Not everyone's real, and you only come back if you're real,
Right.
and that's why she didn't come back.
Right.
So this is also the part where the younger girl, the only alive girl at this point,
Yes.
starts doubting the stuff that he's saying. And she actually calls him out.
Yes.
She does say like, I think you're making this up or you're not telling the entire truth.
Which is the first time we kind of see maybe she knows a little bit more than we are led to believe.
Yes,
That
yes.
she's not as naive as we seem to have thought.
Because
she
the
was.
entire movie, that's kind of how she's set up. right?
Very,
Like,
very innocent. Just takes people for who they are. Always smiling. It seems like her only goal, as you mentioned, is I just want to do one convert.
Right.
You got
And
8, and man, oh man, you know.
in that innocence that she's also displaying, there's a scene in the previous section of the movie when they're in the living room.
Yes.
She sees the butterfly at the window, and I think because of the fear that the nervousness in her, you know, she says, "Oh, if you know." Actually, this comes when Mr. Reed asks the older girl, "Have you had any visitations from your dead father?"
Right. Yes.
And the older girl says no.
No.
The younger girl sees the butterfly,
Fly.
who can't escape. Right, she's
Right.
trying to get up to the light, and
Which
the
again,
message,
Message.
right, yeah. So like.
metaphor.
Exactly, right? The younger girl kind of blurts out like, oh, well, when I die, I want to come back as a butterfly,
right.
visit the people I love, and land right on their hand
Yes.
so they know it's me.
Yes, that's
So
right.
keep another bookmark in that.
We'll be back to that later.
Yeah, so the younger girl back in the basement after the older girl is sliced open, starts calling him on his bullshit.
Yes.
Right? She starts explaining like, well, you know, when you left the room, I noticed that you had wet hair
That's
when you
right,
came
yes.
back. And also,
Which means you were outside.
You were
You
outside.
were most likely messing with our bikes.
Yep, and-
by the way, I found the key. It's not my lock. Why is it in my pocket?
why is it in my pocket? Right. And then she also starts saying, you know, when the prophet died, you know, I noticed that her body was in a different position than it had normally been in when she quote died.
Right.
And he starts kind of smirking, like,
Right.
okay.
Like, he's almost like, oh, good. This game got a lot more interesting
now it's fun, right?
Yeah.
Now it's more than just cat and
Right.
mouse, right?
Like, and I think even a little. Oh, maybe I did underestimate her a little bit.
Yes.
And this is even better than I could have ever imagined. you
yeah.
know?
So I, you know, she starts kind of. I don't know if he poses the question of like, how
He
how
does.
was the
He does.
switch?
He says, "Well, then how could it have happened?" And she said, "Well, they would have. It would have been like there must be something that she must have taken the body to, like a trap door or something like that."
Yep.
And he's like, "What do you mean?" And then she essentially flips the table over
She
and
flips the table and finds the trap door. So I'm gonna interfere with this section here because when she opens the trap door, to me, the way it was described made it sound like it was messy in muddy dirt.
As though she had to kind of use her fingers to make the frame of the door.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, also the part where so the live one carried a dead body down into like again if we get stuck in too many details none of it's believable, but yes, go ahead,
Right.
please.
Yeah, so it just kind of seemed like, well, that's a lot of, I mean, firstly, the dead body's over the trap door.
Yes.
Where did the other girl come from?
And again, we will soon find this out. But yes, yeah, and I think again it shows the girl was much more observant than we realized.
Yes, yes.
She's smarter than he probably first thought she was, and that she is also now not dealing with belief or just what I saw. Right. She's now starting to use logic.
Yes.
That there's no way these things could have happened, no matter what I saw, no matter what I might want to believe.
Right.
So now I have to go with what's the most logical answer. Well, the most
Right.
logical answer would be you simply switched out the women.
Yes.
And
right.
you got the other woman that showed up with the face turned to the right, got rid of the body. Where would she have gotten rid of the body?
Yep.
Well, she couldn't have taken it upstairs because we'd have been there. So the only thing is something must be below where she could drop it. She opens the door and he's smiling, kind of like, well, now you know what your option is. You've got one way to go.
And he does say, down there is the only true religion.
That's right.
That's
yes.
where he starts kind of dropping that, right?
Right.
So she chooses to go down into the kind of sub-basement
Yes.
and finds the dead body.
Absolutely.
She's proven correctly, and then he slams the door on her.
Right. And again, the only way out is through.
Right.
So this cavernous thing she has to go through.
She uses her phone to kind of guide her way through it, and she does notice that there are books down there, a bunch more religious texts,
Symbolisms, a lot of
symbols, runes,
yes.
and stuff like that. You
Yes.
know, and she's making her way down there.
Mm-hmm.
She finds another door that's locked with her bike lock.
Yep.
Right. So again, we are kind of posed with the. Did he put it in the wrong pocket on purpose or not?
Right.
You know, I think it was. I think it was not right. Like he did it purposefully,
Because at that point, again, he is sizing them up.
sizing them up. Yeah, he knows he's gonna get rid of the older one.
And it speaks to something I believe he's already talked about, but he goes into it later on more so. That religion is about control.
Control. Yes.
He believes he is in control
Yep.
of this entire situation from the moment the girls came into his house.
Right.
And technically he has been.
to this. Yes. Yeah.
So putting the lock on there is almost a way of telling her, oh, I already knew you'd get to this spot.
Right. Right.
I know you have the key in your pocket. Don't worry about it.
Because also, I think even if he played on her naivete,
Mm-hmm.
he would have worked it so that even if a person didn't have to die,
Yeah.
he could have separated the girls
Sure.
and had her go down that path.
You get
right?
the sense that whatever they would have done, they were never actually in control.
Right,
That
right.
he was in control.
Yeah, so she opens the locked door
Mm-hmm.
with her bike lock, steps into a kind of a little cavernous room,
Mm-hmm.
and then discovers that there's women down there in cages,
Yes.
right? And they're very sickly, and it's very cold down there, very damp.
And more importantly, they all look like the prophet.
They all look like the prophet.
They're
right?
wearing the robe.
Yeah.
They look exactly the same.
Yeah.
And you realize, oh, he has been Buffalo Billing these women who come to his fucking house and can just swap them out
He's been
one by
helping-
one every time somebody else shows up.
He's been asking for help with his couch for a long time,
Yes,
right?
sir. Making a lot of blueberry pie.
Yeah. I mean, he must have a membership to Costco or something.
I just want to know where she hid the Easy Bake Oven to make these things. You know.
Yeah, right. Because there is no kitchen in this
No,
house.
I did not see a single kitchen. But there was definitely a pie.
No, there's always pie. Yeah, so he comes down and starts explaining to her in this kind of overblown rhetoric about how control is the
Right.
only true religion.
Right.
And again, when you look at religion at superficially,
Sure.
he's not wrong.
Not wrong at all.
He's not wrong at all.
If for nothing else, everyone would admit you can use religion to control people.
And historically, that is the case.
Absolutely
Right.
been. Is religion about control? That is a debate.
Right.
Has it been used to control? That is not up for debate. It has absolutely been used for
Yeah.
that.
So
And also in the meantime, he is, I believe, at this point, cutting the nails of
one of them, and then
so
hurts
he's
her.
doing that kind of cool
Yeah.
bad guy thing where you're nonchalantly doing another thing
Yep,
while you're
yep.
explaining he's eating scenery, and it's
Of course.
absolutely beautiful.
And again,
He's
Hugh
killing it.
Grant
he's
is-
killing it.
fantastic as a bad guy.
Well, I feel like it's one of those performances. If this wasn't a horror movie, he'd be getting a lot more. My God, how good was this? And maybe even an Oscar. But because horror is seen as its own,
Horror always gets kind of the
It's short
shit
change.
end of the,
Yeah.
the stick. Yeah,
it absolutely does.
Yeah.
Because I think his performance was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it
and
was
in
great.
these little moments, it's so sinister. It's not even funny.
Yeah,
Because like you
yeah.
said, he's cutting her nails. The girl. This is the girl who he points out. Oh, this is the one, right? She told you. Tell me what she told you.
Right.
And he's like, and tell me. I want to really know what she told you. And then she tells her that she said it's not that it's not real.
It's not real.
And he's like, yeah. And he's cutting her nails, and then takes her finger out and
Yep.
cuts because he's using like hedge clipper to you use it for plants, and he
Right.
cuts her finger off. Which I also thought to myself, well, that means he's going to have to cut all the other girls' fingers at some point, right? Because otherwise you'll be able to tell them apart.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Like, well, that's a lot of fingers, but hey,
He
the
probably
man's in it.
has the cages labeled like Prophet 1, Prophet 2, right?
I mean, look, he's obviously committed to this bit. So if you got to take a finger, you got to take a finger,
Yeah, so, they kind of do a back and forth.
Yeah.
And at one point, he says how ridiculous religion is because of her magic underwear, thereby giving away the secret word for her to attack. And this is I think one of the unexpected moments on his part.
Absolutely.
Right.
This is the turn.
Yeah, so she stabs him in the neck. He's bleeding out, and I forget if she goes back up the. Oh no, actually no. She had seen where he had come in through,
and she goes out that way.
She goes out that way. She also finds out in that whole process that both the previous doors, the belief and disbelief doors, were both going to lead down into the basement anyway. Right. So she goes up into the pulpit area, sees the little model of the house to try to find out a way to get out. And somehow she ends up in the basement again.
Back in the basement, yes.
Right?
She goes back into the basement.
And while she's down there looking for the way out, he comes back in, stabs her in the gut.
With like a what do you call those?
Box opener.
Box cutter.
Box cutter. There you go.
Right in the gut.
Right in the gut. So now she's hurt, and he's still bleeding out.
Yeah.
And he tells her to pray, and she relays the
prayer doesn't do anything.
Prayer doesn't do anything, and she recalls a study that was done on a group of people. One that was a group of believers, one that wasn't, and how prayer didn't help either group at all.
Which, God dang it, I know we're going back and forth, but part of that is, remember too, the older girl tells her, don't use logic against him.
Right, use
debate
logic against him. Right.
That's how we're going to win this, she believes.
Yes.
That's why the young girl then does I saw a study, because this is what he's been doing the whole time. There's a study that says, or if you don't know this, so she goes into that. So
yes.
proceed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, no. She recalls that, and she tells him prayer's not going to do any good, right?
Right.
And he gets closer and closer, is looming right above her, basically cheek to cheek at this point. And he's holding the box cutter at her face, I think it was, right?
I believe so. He's going to try to kill her because he can't have her live.
Yeah, and at one point, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I got the notion that he was crying on her shoulder.
I mean,
almost as if to say, look, I know I said all this other shit before.
Sure.
But now that we're both going to fucking die.
Yeah.
I need to go out on with a good thing. I need some hope, at least at the end.
I'll go with that. I don't fully remember that part.
Okay, I got the notion that he started kind of crying on her shoulder.
He definitely. I think it's number one, the turn of her stabbing him. He never saw coming.
Right.
He continues to believe he's the smartest guy in the room.
Yes.
And also realizes now she cannot survive.
Right.
I'm going to have to kill her. And by the way, I'm going to die.
I'm going to die
There's no
too.
way I'm surviving this. So this is all coming to an end. Maybe that's where he's more sad than anything else. It's like, well, this whole thing is now over.
This is bit me in the ass.
Yeah.
Right. And
the whole time that I believe I was in control of all of this, and I thought I deduced who was the one I needed to get rid of so that I could control the other and become another concubine, if you will.
I underestimated.
And holy shit, did I pay the ultimate price.
Right. So then she closes her eyes, and then miraculously, the older girl, as the guy is about to kill her, is alive and hits him in the face with the broken table leg with 3 nails.
With 3 nails.
3 nails. Put me up for the night.
Right. They weren't 9-inch nails, but they were 3 nails. Hint, hint.
Hint, hint. Right. So he's dead.
Yeah.
The 2 girls kind of see each other for one last time. The older girl dies again.
Yes.
And the younger girl holds her in her lap, I guess. Yeah. And the next scenes that come up, she's coming out of the basement into a field. There's mountains and...
Well, she comes through a window, right?
She goes through the window.
She goes through a window.
Yeah.
Very like a small, like a hexagon kind of window.
Like a little port window.
Like a port window, yes.
Yeah.
Comes out of that, kind of boom, into the snow. Lots of sunlight as though the storm has passed. The snow is on the ground.
You see the mountains around her, the clouds. And she notices that on her hand, all of a sudden a little butterfly flies down and lands on her hand. And she's happy. And then when she looks again, it's not there. And she looks up with a troubled look and credits.
Right.
So.
Yes.
Sorry for that very verbose kind of back and forth explanation. Again, spoilers all
Yes,
around.
all
So
around.
if
Yeah.
you're at this point and you're getting mad at spoilers,
I mean, we may have confused the shit out of you by the way we kept going back and forth and remembering.
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
But at the same time, this is not one we've necessarily committed to memory. It's just, but at the same time, yes, the lots of spoilers. You've seen the movie.
Yes,
At
right.
least through our eyes.
right? Yeah, or Aaron's eyes and my ears.
Between the two of us, you've pretty much seen the movie.
Right. So, what do you think?
I think ultimately, I appreciate movies like this, but I also hate movies like this. I am not good a lot of times with metaphor.
Yeah.
I don't mind a movie that makes me think. In fact, I like a movie that makes me think, if I'm being completely honest. But also this part where it's like, well, is she dead? Is she not dead? And then you look it up and they're like, yeah, is she? And like, oh, fuck you. God damn it. Just tell me. Just tell me.
So-
My assumption is that, yes, she died.
Yes.
There's a sense of her friend saving her, which couldn't have been. There's no fucking way. He slit her throat. He cut her arm wide open
Yeah.
to get the IUD out. There's no way she was alive for that.
Right.
I think she died with that guy in her arm. The going through the little porthole window to escape is like as though her soul is entering a heaven. This bright light is exactly as described by people
Well, that's
who die.
that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
The hole is the tunnel
There you
with
go.
the light at the end of the tunnel,
And
right?
you get this super bright light. She's already expressed that she would like to be a butterfly who
Yep.
lands on the people she loves to remind them of the fact that, and it's not just that a butterfly lands on her hand. The perspective is you are now her seeing the butterfly land on her hand.
Yes,
The
yes.
next shot is now away from her and there is no butterfly on her hand.
Right.
It's almost a moment where like, you are Tyler Durden, you know what I mean, if you will. And it's just like, so again, the movie, in many ways, there are tropes that are used in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But creatively, I thought it was very well done. Very good performances. The constant iteration part. I don't know if you caught this at the very end. Did you hear the song that was playing?
It was Knocking on Heaven's Door done in the Fade Into You style.
Right. Now,
Yes.
interestingly enough, by the way, the girl who makes it out, she's singing.
She's singing it. Sophie Thatcher.
Who is
yes.
also the one who says, I hate the sound of my singing voice.
Right.
So it's just like, this thing is just layer upon layer upon layer.
Of iterations.
Of iterations. And also just like, these weird, like what was interesting is the music starts and my wife goes, oh, isn't that Mazzy Star? And I go, well, yeah. And I go, no, that's Knocking on Heaven's Door.
Yeah.
Especially when the lyrics came in, I was like, oh, yeah, that's definitely Knocking on Heaven's Door. But I was like, but that did sound like Mazzy Star.
Right.
And I looked at the credit, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly. I was like, son of a bitch, dude. Like, wow, these guys, like, they don't let, from the moment it starts to the moment it ends, like, we're throwing all this shit. It's like at some point with the credits, I was just waiting for one of them to be like, or are these the people that worked on the movie? You know what I mean? It's just like, so yes, ultimately, I believe she passes. I believe she is dead.
I do too. I think we realize that she's dead when, like you said, when the friend comes back and kills Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Because again, that type of ending is so sensational and ultimately an ending we would all like to happen.
Yes.
Right.
It's good point. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah,
it's the one that
it feels like that's justice.
justice.
Yes.
There you go.
Great.
And even though the older girl dies, we are still in the thought that the younger girl's going to get away.
Yes.
And everything's going to go to somewhat normality after she heals up.
Yeah.
But because she goes through the little hexagonal window, the light at the end of the tunnel,
Yes.
into heaven, right? Into the majestic scenery, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And the butterfly trope once again, which he had also made a mention of butterflies previously in the movie where
Yes.
there was a Chinese philosopher who said something to the effect of like, there was a man and a butterfly and it was unknown whether the man was dreaming of the butterfly or the butterfly was dreaming of the man.
Which he also, the butterfly effect. And she says, yes, isn't that when a butterfly flaps its wings, it causes... not that one.
Exactly, yeah, right? So
Even the other one, I can't remember what the quote was, but she gets...
she says Swamp Thing.
But he says it, doesn't he? Oh, yeah.
No,
she's the one that goes, Swamp Thing. And he's like...
And he's like, he says the philosopher.
The philosopher
like,
actually
no,
says
it's Swamp Thing.
It's Swamp Thing. And
Yeah.
he was like, shit, you might be right.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Again.
So I think the one about the butterfly dreaming
Yes.
about it's basically it's an argument of perception.
Yes.
Right?
Which you get two perceptions. One from her, one as somebody outside.
Right.
You don't see a butterfly. She does.
She does. Exactly. And to go back into the kind of symbolism and the metaphor of the butterfly, when that original butterfly was seen
Yes.
in the window trying to get out,
Yes.
I do think that was kind of symbolic of her trying to get out of the house
Well, if
and
and
ultimately being trapped.
And if I am correct, and again, only saw the movie once, but I believe that butterfly that is trapped is a dark butterfly. Its wings are a darker color. The one that lands on her is kind of the typical brownish, yellowish.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, I don't think those are mistakes. When the one girl has black hair, the other one is lighter hair.
There you go. Yeah.
I think you could also interpret it as she did escape, and the butterfly landing on her is her friend.
There's a friend.
Telling her, I will always be with you, the way you described,
So I
think the more logical I think the more logical answer, and ultimately they don't want you, whatever you decide, they're fine with.
Right.
Because they are doing iteration. They are
Yep,
doing what you see, what you perceive.
Whatever version of this you want. Right?
Absolutely. The way they see it with religion, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So again, very cool in that way, for sure. But yes, I do think we are supposed to think that she is dead.
I even think too that her not seeing the butterfly anymore puts her in the simulation theory,
Okay, yeah.
where it kind of glitches
Sure,
out,
sure, sure.
and then she
Okay.
realizes like, oh, I'm still sentient, I'm still aware,
Okay.
but now everything that I was hoping would happen didn't.
Interesting. Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So cool movie.
Yeah.
I'm not upset at it.
No, I don't feel like I
thought-
wasted my time.
I
don't-
thought some stuff kind of was heavy-handed.
Yeah.
You know, the more so the tropes of like,
Yeah.
here's why religion is bad, but, blah blah blah. And I get it. It is, he's
Yeah.
again not wrong.
No, no,
he's not incorrect.
No.
But I think because they set him up to be methodical
Yes.
and very very brainy.
Yes.
They could have done I think a better job at deconstructing their belief, right?
Yeah,
Deconstructing the philosophy.
Again, I don't disagree. I do wonder if we are to. I'm trying to think of the movie. I mean, it's been in many movies.
Yeah.
Where the antagonist eventually figures out, or the protagonist eventually finds out, it kind of like Dorothy being scared of the wizard, and then finding out you're just a guy behind a fucking
Right, right.
Maybe that's kind of what they were going for. In the end, you're just a sociopath who likes to trap women and fuck with people who come to your house. You didn't actually learn any of this shit. You
Right.
use it
You
as a
use
method
it.
of control
Yep,
to
yep.
get what you want. What you didn't count on was you thought you were smarter than everybody in here, and you discounted the wrong one.
Because also some questions that popped up afterwards
Please.
were the women he had trapped in the cages.
Right.
Were they all actual
Mormons girl, or just any witness
or
that
just
came, right,
just
right.
needy people who needed maybe a house to stay at,
a homeless
right?
person
a
came.
homeless
Yeah,
person, exactly,
yes,
right?
yes.
So, and now we realize that since everyone's dead, so are those ladies.
And
You know?
and of course he also, I think he does mention the fact that every one of these women came here the same way you did. He doesn't
Right.
not necessarily Mormon, but they all made a choice.
They all made a choice.
You know,
Yes,
again, as he says, why did you trust to come into my house?
Yes,
Why?
right.
Why did you do that? You know, that's the first thing. If you never walked in, you understand you would have never been here.
which
You know,
speaks. I know I
Please,
kept
no,
using
no.
this word a lot. The naivete of a young
Oh,
follower, right?
Yes.
Because when she speaks of watching that adult film at
Yes.
the very beginning of the movie,
Yes.
she does exclaim that she knows God was real because of the kind of the reaction one of the ladies in the movie she was watching,
right,
of kind of disgust at being in her own movie,
right.
right? And she's like, I knew God was real because of that, like that reaction that
Right.
that actress had, which that's a naive way of expressing God is real.
Yes.
But because somebody who's so embedded,
Entrenched, yes.
right? They're gonna look for that reasoning.
Indoctrinated. That's probably a better word.
There
yeah.
you go.
Yes.
Indoctrinated. They're gonna look for any reason
Anything.
to explain away their belief.
Which again, he gives her that option too. Explain it away. Tell
Yes,
me. You
yes.
try to, and she does. There can't be. She didn't live.
Right.
She's this trap door. Da 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 da. And he's like, oh, kind of. Oh, I'm impressed. Again, yes.
Yes, yes.
The themes running through the whole movie do a good job of running through the whole movie.
Yeah.
Even when they're talking about the condoms, it is perception from both of them how they see the condom.
Right. Right.
You know, so it's like it's heavy-handed from the beginning. They're not. In many ways, they are telegraphing everything. Some
Yeah,
of it is through metaphor, but a lot of it is we're telling the story from the moment you start to the moment you end.
Yes,
and I like that. Like I said, it didn't feel like I wasted my time. Do I return to it again? Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. As far as A24 is concerned and the movies that they produce, not very high on my list.
Not very high on my list.
Which says more to A24 and a lot of the great movies that thing makes than this film.
Right. Right.
I think it's just, to say, when you look at what they've put out.
Yes. Yeah. Had this been any other studio, it would have been fine.
The bar is just so high in my opinion, with the stuff that A24 puts out, that's why this is 100% just lower. But very creative, very cool, great performance by Hugh Grant. I did read that, they had seen him in an interview where he's kind of like, kind of bummed I don't get to play bad guys. And they were like, well, do we have a bad guy for you? So, yeah, I thought he was really good. Both of the girls were fantastic in it. You really believe, well, again, nice that they were ex-Mormons. They had actually,
they come from experience.
And from what I understand, even helped the director and the writers to be like, no, actually, this is how we would do this. This is how this would happen.
Even the way they were dressed in the beginning.
Oh, absolutely.
That's true to being a Mormon and going out and seeking converts like that.
The whole bicycle, the name tag.
Yeah, the name tag and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there were also 2 end scenes filmed for this.
Oh, I did not know
and they used sections of each take.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so some of the ones where he's looking at her kind of more deviously and like more angry.
Okay.
Mixed in with the ones where he looks more sorrowful.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
So like even at the end, there's different perceptions of him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, again, was he this real religious nut that just felt he had to teach people a lesson? Or is he just some sociopath that figured out a method to get women into his little concubine to fuck with them?
And there's another question for me.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, that's what this guy is.
Yeah.
Crazy guy who traps women.
Yeah.
And it becomes kind of every other movie that plays along these same lines.
Well, and again, though, maybe I will defend it. It's just the back and forth is I don't disagree.
Yeah.
But it also, again, is we start perceiving that he is a guy who's just super smart and thinks he's going to teach. And in the end, what you thought he was, he never was. He was just this sociopath piece of shit.
Right.
And we, because of how we are introduced to him and what he does, assume certain things about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only to find out that in the end, you're just some scumbag.
Yep. And where do you think the name for the movie applies? Who's the heretic? Is it him?
Dude, that's a great point. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think any of them are ultimately. Well, I mean, he's a heretic in the sense of, I guess, like I've been saying. I don't think he gives a shit about religion, and I don't think he gives a shit about what the true God is. He uses that as a way to trap people, more importantly, women. So in that way, he is a heretic. It's not something he's actually searching for. It's not something that he's angry about, the way he tries to present it. So I guess in that way, maybe a heretic, but I don't know. That's a good. I never, titles can be titles. I don't know. Maybe it was close to Hereditary and it would fool people into watching it. You know
I think it did.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's just a cool name, a heretic.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So,
and maybe also to skew your perspective of what this movie was going to be. I heard the title, and now I'm going to go into it. Oh, this wasn't anything to do with heresy.
That's kind of what my opinion was going to go towards, where like heretic is more the viewer.
Okay.
Where even if you come in a believer of any of the 3 big Abrahamic religions, maybe you don't end up questioning your faith, but you end up kind of like, well, there are more questions to be asked.
Yeah.
And even asking these questions, if you are of any faith, could label you as a heretic.
Well, and you get that sense, again, with the older dark-haired girl. Her faith may not be as strong. Her belief.
Even though she's more experienced in the religion.
Absolutely.
Right?
But her worldly days before she joined maybe inform her a little bit more than the girl who has only known this.
That's right. So even then, the title of heretic would apply more to that girl.
Yes.
Because she's the one also with the IUD.
Yes.
Right?
She's at least for their religion. For
their
sure.
religion. And it's even explained.
Yeah.
She got that because... And she never told anybody because she'd be shunned or mocked or whatever, right?
Which the girl knew, which was very, very interesting too.
Yep.
The other girl knew that she had that, and she knew why she didn't tell people about it,
right?
Because she would be shunned. And knowing that and not shunning her Is she a heretic?
Is she the heretic? Right.
You know, yeah.
So
That's
everybody in the
great
movie is
question.
a heretic, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, or what is
What
is
is heresy,
compassion
right?
heresy? Because ultimately, the
Ultimately,
girl
yeah.
is showing. I don't care that she's a good person, and I want to love her through my religion, one way or the other. You know, yeah. No,
and
that's
also,
a great question. Man.
ultimately, she does pray for Mr. Reed. So would that be heresy? Because he was the aggressor, he's the attacker.
I think if anything, it shows again
Compassion.
Compassion,
But would that
which-
compassion be labeled as?
It could be. I think again. I think it's more compassion. I mean, look, for if there's one thing you can take away from all three of the religions that most have a hardest time with, it's forgiveness.
Yeah.
So if she is willing to forgive after what she's witnessed this man, not only do to her and her friend, but also what he does, what his ultimately plan is,
Yeah.
like, and still go, I'm still going to pray for you. Well, then maybe she truly is the only believer in this room at this point.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Again, if nothing else, I take that away from the movie. I like a movie that I always feel like, you know, I'm not saying anything people probably don't know. Art is there to make you feel something.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
Whether you hate it or love it, that's not the point. That's good.
Right.
That you're feeling something. The worst thing about art that art can do is make you go, eh. That's what you don't want.
Right.
So I figure any movie that I walk away from and we have a discussion of, as we're doing now, or as my wife, my kids, we all do every time we watch a movie, especially something gets us thinking, then you've achieved your goal to some
Yes.
degree.
Yeah.
And I got to give you props. Because I don't know that I would have this deep of a discussion to say about Terrorizer 3. You know what I mean? Nothing against those movies. I'm just simply saying, I don't know that there would be like, yeah, but why did he fold the person in half and put him in the oven? I think that's the real question. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you know, I do wish there were more of a theological discussion in there. Just you know, and that's
I think they used it as a plot device to get another
100%,
places.
100%.
For sure.
You know, and again, this is just me not being able to disconnect that part of my
I
life
totally
from
understand.
this, right?
Totally
So
understand.
anytime like religion is brought up, I'm already gonna be like, okay, what are you gonna say? Because I'm gonna counter it.
I hear
already,
you.
right?
No,
Like,
no,
100%. I'm gonna counter it with whatever.
And some
Whether
of it
in
can also be
defense-
just the scariness of how many people out there do this? Go
Right.
witness to something. Well, you better be careful. You never know.
Exactly,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? Like anything. Like, oh, do you like swimming? Well, we got Jaws.
Yes,
Do you like
yes.
rock climbing? Well, we got a monster that'll eat you.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
So there's some of that too. You know?
Yeah.
And
So-
the monster within, the human being. He's not there is no miracle. There is no this. He's just a scary human
He's
being.
just a very fucking sketch dude.
Right.
Yeah, you know, I agree with you.
Mm.
It's not high up on my A24 list. It's probably closer to the bottom than anything. But still, cool watch.
Yeah, for sure.
I did think the whole notion of him having that compound built into the side of the hill.
Yeah, there's also that where you're just like, who's the construction guy that you call and go, listen, I need you to dig a pit and make it where this, and then put this secret moat. And
Yeah, right.
I don't know any because would be like, this feels like something like, so is he murdered too? Like
Yeah,
he finished and you're like, here's the bill. Oh, there's no bill. I've just killed you and buried you. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, who's building this? And by the way, if he can build this, holy shit,
Dude.
man. You know, I got a few repairs at the house I could use. And, you know, I've got a
100%,
daughter you
yeah.
can have.
I've
Go
got
ahead. I got two of them.
I've got a shower door you can look at, buddy.
You know? Yeah, no, I do love. Again, these are the suspend your disbelief, of the movie. But, yeah.
Again, I get it. You know, I'm a fan of horror
Of
movies
course,
in general,
of
so
course.
suspension of disbelief is something that I have to get used to.
Of course.
This movie,
But I do like looking at those things and saying, like, well, it's just like the one thing I always do. Sweetheart, don't just stab him in the throat.
Right.
You pull it out and then you keep stabbing until he can no
Yes.
longer move.
Stab
and
him in
then
the
you wait 2
eyes.
seconds and you stab him 5 more times.
yeah.
And you don't stop until he's in itty bitty pieces, or what? Like it always bothers me when they do that. You know?
Yep,
Like,
yep.
no. You don't just go, I'm sure that one punch will do it. Like,
Yep,
no!
Yep.
Especially after you watch what this man can do.
Unless his name is Jason Voorhees or
Jason Bourne.
Jason Bourne or Fredward Krueger, you know, something wild like that, then yeah. You got to do it till they stop moving.
Till they're mush.
Till they are mush, yes. So, with that said, you let us know your thoughts on Heretic 2024.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Thank you for the suggestion. If anybody else has anything out there, we'll give it a watch and a listen on my case. And, next time we retell a story from a movie, we promise it won't be so back and forth like you're playing a tennis game.
If you don't see it, what we have is a board with string that is connecting to the,
we are the FBI in this.
Follow this thread.
Yeah, we got string all over this room. But that being said, what have you been listening to?
So let's see. Been big on... I continue with my Merle Haggard. I finally gave up trying to find people who recommend. I'm just going to start with the first one, and I'm just going to move my way up and just keep listening. So, but definitely that. I watched the Bob Dylan biopic, so been listening to a bunch of him.
Nice.
My newest obsession is that I think I mentioned him before, but still I cannot stop listening to Pitchfork. Essentially one album, early iteration of Drive Like Jehu, and I'm fucking loving that. It's so good. One of my all-time, I believe, the greatest rap duo ever, Gangstar. I absolutely love them. I think Guru is one of the top, and DJ Premier, maybe one of the great DJs ever in hip hop. Absolutely love them. I've been deep diving on them a lot. New Deaf Heaven.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I really enjoy it. I think it's their best one since New Bermuda. I didn't the more shoegazy one. I wasn't really my thing. I know. I think you liked that, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't. Just not what I come to Deaf Heaven for. The Capable Human, whatever that one was that had Chelsea on it.
Ordinary Love or something.
Something like that. Yeah, good. I liked it, but. New Bermuda, I really loved. As I was saying to people, this one is back to much more metallic Deaf Heaven, and I like that. There's, dare I say, for those who may not like it, but there's Slayer-ish riffs that they kind of do that I really, really enjoy.
I can hear that, yeah.
The other one I definitely got deep dived into, got back at Tad. I fucking love Tad. Yeah. I think he's massively underrated. I think he's the best thing to come out of Seattle of a lot of those bands. I mean, I know some of it just happenstance also sabotaged a career, but also I don't know why he wasn't bigger. And I think if he came out now with Tad, he'd be the biggest sludge stoner band going right now.
Yeah,
I love every one of his
definitely
records.
Underappreciated by a lot.
I think so. Anytime I mention him to people, it's either they know him and love him, or they don't know.
Right.
Yeah, and I just think it's a shame because I think he is that band is fucking amazing. I love him. Last one, Youth Code. Really dig them.
Yeah,
I've always liked Youth Code, and I went on a bit of a long run with them. Beyond that, just usuals, just whatever whatever was tickling my fancy at the time, but the ones that I've go back to a million times. How about yourself?
So I got on a kind of a post-punk, sad person vibe for a while. There's a band from like East LA, Northeast LA called Oscuros.
Okay.
It's Mexican, Latina kind of post-punk music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really, really good.
Right on.
I know I'm saying it kind of, and I sound condescending or patronizing, but it's amazing.
No, it's actually good.
Yeah, it's actually really good. They did a great job. No, it's awesome. Like I'm only saying it because I was not aware, and apparently they're from like around where I live.
Okay.
So it's always cool to find out that stuff like that exists around me.
Yeah.
Then there's a band from Mexico called Deceits.
Okay.
Which is same. These are all like post-punk kind of dark wave type sounding.
Okay. I see what you're saying. More so not post-punk in the sense of like Drive Like Jehu.
No.
Kind of more in the dark wave kind of.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
Very Joy Division type.
Okay.
Right
on.
What's another one? MAT. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Okay.
I think it's MATVLVCK, something like that.
Okay.
I think they are also from Mexico. I'm not sure. And then another band called French Police.
Oh.
Yeah, these are all amazing. A lot of songs in Spanish.
Okay.
But it's just amazing music.
Interesting.
Amazing music. And since, I can understand the language.
Sure.
Great gothy lyrics,
Okay.
And then there's one
Are
from
these new bands or are these
newer.
Just, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
some
I
of
mean,
them,
I guess what I'm ultimately asking is a new emerging scene in Mexico that these bands?
well,
just...
like this type of music has been in Mexico for
Okay,
a long time.
okay.
I just think these are more newer bands, and
Okay.
they're getting a lot of recognition now.
Okay.
I think Deceits is gonna play that one festival in Pasadena with all the darker sounding bands.
okay.
I forget what that one's called. That festival.
Yeah, I know.
But they're not sponsored.
Tournament of
so who
Roses
cares?
parade, or
The what's the other parade? The Doodah parade. But then there's this other band from I think Seattle called Dark Chisme, which Chisme is like rumors, you know.
okay.
So it's Dark Chisme, and she uses a lot of kind of traditional like Latino sounding music.
Okay.
But of course with the heavy synths, Spanish gothy type of vibes in her
wow.
lyrics. It's really cool, you know.
Right on.
So I've kind of been staying in that mind frame for a while, just because I am a sad boy at heart,
I feel you. No.
you know, and since it's been kind of cold at night here in LA, I get to vibe out to that, you know.
Right on.
But yeah, I wanted that to kind of be a cleanser of the palate, as it were, for whatever else we get into next time. But yeah, and as usual, if folks out there have any recommendations, let us know. We appreciate all the recommendations made to us. So thank you
Absolutely.
again, Ty. We super appreciate you listening and
Yeah.
reaching out.
To everybody.
Yeah, to everybody. Yeah, thank you for all the feedback that we've been getting. We'll catch you guys next time.
Right on.
Hey, folks. Thank you so much for checking out the rehearsal room. We super appreciate you spending time with us. If you have any questions, comments, or want to yell at us for any of the takes we've expressed in any of these episodes, you can contact us by emailing us at therehearsalroompod@gmail.com. All one word, therehearsalroompod@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and now on Blue Sky. Also, if you have any recommendations for any movies or any bands you might want us to check out and give a listen to, feel free to send those in. We always accept submissions. Or if you have any shows coming up that you feel we might be interested in checking out, let us know and we'll give you guys a shout out. But thank you for checking us out, and we'll catch you next time.